Hey, I'm Sith King.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
We're the Rambling Reviewers.
And we just saw Ghostbusters Afterlife.
And let me just tell you, bustin' makes me feel good.
Even though on the ride back from the theater, we started picking apart the movie.
Okay, fine. It's not like the original Ghostbusters movie was flawed. Actually, no, it was flawless. Sorry, Ghostbusters from 1984 is legitimately one of my favorite films of all time. I'm not making a joke here. That's entirely the truth here.
Cool.
The themes, the humor, the story,
uniqueness of the premise,
the dialogue, everything about it is just great.
And they've been trying to follow up on that ever since.
Okay, I like Ghostbusters too.
Yeah, it was just the same plot though, essentially.
Oh yeah, because this one was completely different.
It was somewhat different.
They fought Gozer!
I know, they did.
They had two adult characters with love interests.
Yeah.
They had all of the same ghosts. Except for Slimer. I don't know where Slimer went, but...
Yeah.
Okay, look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Ghostbusters Afterlife is good. If you're a fan of the original Ghostbusters, you're gonna like it. Probably.
Yeah, they do a lot of nods. Spoilers as always. Everyone shows up at the end. The Ghostbusters are reunited. Egon shows up as a ghost. Unfortunately, he cannot speak because his actors sadly passed away and it wasn't available to voice or act the role.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Harold Ramis.
Yeah, I wasn't sure we'd ever see him at the climax because at the beginning you get to see him and it's all very much in shadow, so whoever they got can look like Egon in silhouette and not notice the details too much. Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh yeah."
If they can digitally alter someone to look like Princess Leia, I think they can digitally alter this actor to also look like Princess Leia.
They just might.
Yeah, the technology is very wonky. They can alter people digitally, but only to look like Princess Leia.
Right? No, Avatar was filmed on a real alien planet. We forgot to tell you. That's when the budget was so big.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of the intro,
it was cool walking into it.
Yes.
What's going on here? This is suspenseful. A guy's driving a car, and there's some invisible thing after him, obviously a ghost. And he crashes the car, then he gets out and he goes to this farm and he's holding out a ghost trap. You're like, oh, the silhouette, that's Egon, it's totally Egon. And he's holding it out like he's taunting or tempting the ghost to come and get it or something.
Yeah, and the ghost trap is full. You can see the embers of something inside of it, which I'm not sure that's how the ghost trap worked, but you know what? I don't care.
So
it's
different
a cool
ghosts does different things. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And then he tries to activate what appears to be a corn silos that are electrified because he wants a way to make Fritos really, really fast. Okay, well, it's obviously some sort of ghost trap because, well, what else would it be?
Right, because he watches the thing approach and, once it's in the right position, he hits the pedal, and then it doesn't work. And, oh no, it doesn't work, but I would remember something wrong.
I was honestly thinking that it was going to be some anti-ghost force field thing.
Right, yeah, that could have been it too.
Okay, there's one other thing that kind of bugs me. Egon was here for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
But all the technology he's using is the same stuff from the first movie. You'd think that he'd have invented some super anti-ghost technology while he was here.
Yeah, and it would use a lot more modern interfaces and stuff.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love that they're using the old effects and the old stuff to make it work, but I don't know.
That's the trick there, because they want it to be nostalgic, but you also logically he's been doing this for 30 years. What would make sense to use the original equipment is if the equipment had just been sitting in a box and no one was touching it for 30 years, but that's not the story.
But okay, so the ghost trap fails and Egon goes inside his house, where he apparently thinks that ghosts aren't allowed to enter your house because he's confused them with vampires.
He sits on a couch with, what do you call the detectors?
I don't know.
No.
I call it the ecto-detector.
The ecto-detector. And apparently it doubles as a taser. He just, the last second he tries to, turn it on to zap the ghost.
Yeah,
That's new, right?
That's new. I do like that that's new.
Yeah, okay. So I guess that was his plan, was like, stay very still and hopefully zap the ghost when he
Say
gets
what
here.
you will about the Ghostbusters 2016 movie. There are a lot of people who have a lot of things to say about the Ghostbusters 2016 movie. Some of them more misogynistic than others, but they invented like new Ghostbusters tech.
Yeah.
Stuff that was like different from, okay, it's this Ghostbusters tech, but then also we have like this bouncing energy ball or something that allows us to punch ghosts.
Yeah.
And you'd think that Egon, who designed the proton packs, would, I don't know, come up with something.
Yeah, hopefully.
But anyways, so all of a sudden, dry ice smoke comes down his chimney, which Egon is just sitting in his chair. We don't see the trap anywhere. But he doesn't look. He's just sitting in this chair, tapping as if he's waiting for something. And then the ghost comes down the chimney and forms itself out of the smoke, and then it disappears. And then suddenly the chair grows limbs, and it grabs Egon, and then we cut away. And we learn that he died.
Yeah, I had some impression of that ghost like punched through him. I may have just been seeing the chair arm moving.
Yeah, but they said that he had a heart attack.
Right, that had me confused later. But okay, maybe it just like suffocated him and they thought it was a heart attack or something like that.
Yeah, because I'm sure that grabbed hard enough to hold a fully grown man completely immobile wouldn't show up in an autopsy at all.
No. Maybe a very incompetent autopsy. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, it turns out that we cut away to a family who are doing family things.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're just hanging out at their house, and...
can you bring up the list of characters?
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's right over here. So, the mom is Callie, I believe. Yeah. The 15-year-old kid, the older brother, is Trevor. There's Phoebe, our main character, and...
we're not there yet, but, like, that's the family. Yeah. And it turns out that Callie is super behind on the rent and was just evicted from her apartment, but fortunately, her father just died. Except her father died and left them the house and the will. Yeah. That I should have added that part. So they have a place to go, and it turns out that Callie hates her old man because he ran out on her.
Which is an awful thing to do, let's be clear.
Okay, yes, absolutely. And we're going to come back to this for different reasons other than the moral implications of leaving your family alone. So the whole family packs up from and goes to Summervale, Oklahoma.
Yes.
And then they learn that no one liked their grandpa. I mean,
he was called the Dirt Farmer.
Because he farmed nothing.
Which is very confusing because there are very clearly several acres of corn or wheat or whatever that was. It was wheat, yeah.
Yeah, there was clearly several acres of wheat. Plus, everyone said, oh, he was absolutely crazy. But then no one else knows anything about him at all, other than that he just lived alone on his farm.
With all the wheat that he apparently didn't grow, and it's just sitting there, just natural. Because totally that's how farms work. I don't think it's how farms work.
I don't think it's how
farms work. I think after 30
work.
years, some trees would start encroaching on the wheat.
Yeah. But, I don't know. The interactions with the townspeople seem a little forced in some ways to me. Like, he's the dirt farmer. And they're all thinking he's crazy, but they don't give any examples of why he was crazy.
That's true, aside from him not growing things, which again, there's lots of wheat right there. Are you blind?
Even if you ignore the wheats, that might count as eccentric. I mean, admittedly, he did form a barrier out of scrap metal and painted...
quotes from Revelation.
Okay, admittedly, that is
the weird thing, yeah.
Okay, but it doesn't seem like... I don't know, that still seems charmingly... Okay, he's from New York. At best, he going to a farm in the middle of nowhere, writing the Book of Revelations on scrap metal and making a homemade fence. That's charmingly eccentric at best.
Yes.
I don't know. I consider crazy to be Old Man McGucket from Gravity Falls, where the worst that I can tell Egon did was he made weird purchases and he didn't farm. The worst Old Man McGucket did was build a giant Loch Ness Monster robot and terrorize the lake.
Yeah, just to get his son to pay attention to it.
And also did a whole bunch of other stuff, like running around town trying to eat people's pets.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
And also he was genuinely a lunatic, you know.
Yeah. So part of our problem here is, again, the absence of real-life actor. So they couldn't do, like, flashbacks and stuff. But, yeah, you could more easily write around that. And,
you could write around that by saying, here's an example of a crazy thing he did.
Yeah, you're right, they could just narrate. I remember that time he did X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. After the family moves into the house...
Hey, get a phone call. No, that's just the phone going off. Pay no attention to this phone.
Okay, so after the family kind of settles in, they start trying to get jobs and stuff because their family's flat broke. Trevor immediately falls in love with a girl whose name I legitimately did not know the entirety of the movie, but she's supposedly like a mainish character.
Yeah, they mentioned it once, but her name is Lucky, so like it's easy to lose that in dialogue because you think it's the concept of Lucky and not a person named Lucky.
Mm-hmm. But he immediately falls in love with Lucky because she's a waitress at this restaurant, so he signs up to work at this restaurant.
Does Callie have a job?
Yeah, that's another thing I was getting to. Callie, we never see it applying for a job or anything, so I think I might know exactly how she got into those money troubles.
Yeah, I mean, her character is not portrayed as someone who doesn't work. It's like, we assume she has one, and the writers forgot to mention it.
Yeah, but we don't see it, so... I don't know. Phoebe is the most of the focus of this movie. She's portrayed as someone on the autism spectrum. However, unlike a lot of portrayals of someone on the autism spectrum, I think it was kind of positive.
Oh, definitely. She's the main character.
Well, yeah, but sometimes when you have people on the autism spectrum, you can get really bad portrayals of them. But
True.
She hits a whole bunch of the things, but at the same time, she's shown to be functional.
Yeah, and way more competent than everyone else on certain subjects.
Yeah,
which is it's fine. She's a big nerd. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, mind you, I'm way more competent in the field of Star Wars Legends than, most other people, and so I can definitely speak to that being a trait of high-functioning autism. Although at one point she said, being overstimulated is how I calm down, which, no, that's... Speaking as someone with autism, that's not how that works.
No, but seeing as they'd never used the word autism in the show, I could accept her as being... The movie, I can accept she's just some other subtype of neurodivergent and like whatever. They don't need to,
Okay, yeah, but but at the same time, that's like saying, this liquid rock is pouring out of the volcano. Let's not name it. It's actually mud.
There are such things as mud volcanoes, actually.
Okay,
not liquid rock, but.
But you get what I'm trying to say. She ticks so many boxes for autism, at least close to high functioning, that it's all but that, and I don't know. Anyways, she goes to summer school, and this is the worst summer school ever. Like,
why are they even at a school? Just to like give their mom some free time?
Yeah, why?
Like it's summer, so like
yeah. And what's the point of this summer school? When I went to summer school, it wasn't. When I went to summer school, there was a point. It was because I wanted to get some extra credits so that I wouldn't have to take a course during the year, because it was apparently really terrible during the year because it was so stretched out. However, during the summer classes, they got through it went much faster and thus was better in many ways. We meet Gary
Gruberson.
Gary Gruberson, played by Paul Rudd, recently named Sexiest Man Alive by People magazine. And he doesn't try to teach anyone anything. He puts on Cujo at first, which I'm pretty sure is rated R. And
I did not know that was a real movie till they mentioned in the credits, the clip from Cujo. It's like, oh gosh, okay.
Yeah, I thought you needed when you're showing it to 12 or 13-year-olds and you're showing an R-rated movie, you need parents' permission strips.
Slips.
Strips of paper that have parents' permission on them. That's what I mean. But the weird thing is, okay, I could buy it if this was a one-off thing because he didn't have his whole schedule planned out yet. And he didn't have a lesson plan. Fine. It's just a fun little joke. Ah ha ha, this guy's showing these kids a movie that they're not supposed to. But later in the film, he's showing the kids Chucky.
Yeah, that's a scary
He's
thing.
not even trying to teach them.
No, okay, so I think this is actually just a difference in how our local schools work as opposed to how a lot of other schools work. Because I've elsewhere seen portrayed in media, summer school is not the place where you go to do everything you just said. Summer school is essentially a punishment for kids who lag behind the previous semester. In which case, it's more like an extended detention than it is expected you will actually learn anything.
Okay, then why are they playing awesome horror movies?
Because they have a fairly nice detention teacher who says, screw it, we're going to put on a horror movie and my supervisor's never going to walk by. Like, I can buy that there are school systems that run on this lackadaisical attitude.
Oh.
So anyway, those kids are doing their thing, and...
we meet Podcast.
Podcast shows up, yeah.
Podcast is a character was ready to call the most useless character in the film until the film finished and I was able to more adequately dissect Lucky's lack of character. But no, Lucky becomes... Podcast becomes Phoebe's friend. And his whole shtick is he wants to do a podcast. But is also like a 12-year-old boy, so he's like, awesome whenever they do something awesome.
I was hoping they would crank that up further, actually, particularly when they first unleash a ghost. Like, he sees a ghost with his own eyes for the first time. He goes like, whoa, or something. And I'd be like, no, make that kid ecstatic, like the real contrast to Phoebe, you know, just bouncing off walls and yelling. And Phoebe's like, yes, that was impressive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, whatever.
But Phoebe evidently wanders into the teacher's area, which you can just do when you're in...
lackadaisical school, telling you.
And immediately recognizes seismograph things that we never see, actually.
Yeah, they're right off screen. The seismologist didn't show up to draw us a graph. I'm sorry.
These seismology graphs, they're right off screen alongside this juggler. And look, there's Atlantis!
It was off screen the entire time. The mystery is solved.
Oh, and there's Homestar. Oh, I'm always here. I'm just usually behind the black.
Yeah.
But it turns out that this guy's a geologist, which, honestly, I don't really think that was the smartest move for the movie, because that doesn't really come up again.
It comes up for this one scene, you're right.
Yeah, and now if he was like a paranormal investigator, that like he was like got a degree in paranormal investigation and stuff.
Do that from an uncredited school, I take it.
Yeah, and that's why he's like manning the detention,
right,
you know, because he's a teacher, but he's super low on the totem pole because, well, everyone else has prestigious degrees from like community college and stuff.
Yeah, right.
But the geology thing only shows up for this one scene, and it's used to say, oh, the earthquakes are weird in this town. But the thing is, he later says that earthquakes are fairly common in Oklahoma now due to fracking.
Yeah, but it's clearly a different kind of earthquake.
I know, but it's... I don't know. Something about this bothers me in a way that I can't put into words.
Yeah, it doesn't become useful to the plot beyond that one scene.
It allows Phoebe and Gary to bond.
Yeah, it was nice and all.
Which is nice, but I wish it could have been over something a little more substantive to the plot. Especially since, as we see later on, Gary knows a lot about Ghostbusters and mythological stuff. Yeah,
so Phoebe goes back to her house where she's been playing chess with a ghost who is apparently Egon. I think you needed a couple more shots of Phoebe being, like, weirded out by the chess pieces moving on their own. Mm-hmm. A little more investigation of, like, Trevor, did you move my chess pieces, you know, like, yesterday or something? Yeah. You gotta remember how weird this is from the character's perspective, even if it's, like, totally expected from the audience's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, this is awesome for us, but this is supposed to be something weird, and this is literally supernatural. There's literal evidence of life after death, and spirits from beyond the grave are interacting with our mortal plane, and the worst Phoebe does is like, huh.
Which, yeah, I'll grant that your expressions are canonically, like, minimal, but you could still play up what those expressions are with, like, a close-up on the eyes and things like that. You know?
Or show her performing experiments,
right,
like moving a chess piece and then making note. taking notes or something.
I would love to see a slightly extended scene where she deliberately makes illegal chess moves and the ghost keeps moving him back. Is it like really quickly to be like, no? She's like, no.
I thought that's what she did. I forgot for a moment that she was the white one. And that she was the black one. So I thought she moved the white one. Or she moved whichever one was not on her side.
Yeah, there could be a whole little quick montage. Like, and then she puts, like, checkers pieces on the board, and they, like, float away, and then she just, like, grabs, like, a book of chess strategy, and just, like, just on and on, like, what the frick is going on here?
Turns into poker, except, like, somehow one side has Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and the other has Uno. But, okay.
Looks for magnets under the board. Remember in Jumanji, and they're like, there must be magnets or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, give me, she's the scientist. Let me make an experiment out of this. And then Trevor walks by and goes, what the hell? You know, like the more normal reaction, right?
Yeah. Meanwhile. And that leads her, thanks to her following with the ecto detector or whatever, leads her to the spot where her grandfather died and the chair where her grandfather died. And she moves it back and it's revealed, turns out there's a secret sliding puzzle in the floor that Egon spent working on instead of calling his family. I don't know.
I don't know what the deal is with that puzzle.
But it turns out that inside there is the ghost trap that Egon died with, or whatever.
So he must have put it in there just before he died because he didn't want Gozer ? To get it, because we're unclear on the identity of who killed Egon.
Yeah,
it seems like an important plot point.
Yeah, we'll get back to this, unless we forget, in which case we won't. But here's the thing about that. It raises a few questions. One, did Egon put this in here? If so, why? Why does he not leave, like, notes saying, I am about to die. Here is the plan to stop Gozer.
Yeah, he had 30 years to write up a plan.
Yeah.
That was weird of him.
That was absolutely weird of him. Then again, he was absolutely weird, so, you know.
Yeah, but weird in the way of being a scientist with graphs and notes and plans and things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
He wasn't like a forgetful guy or a lunatic or something.
He wasn't an absent-minded professor. Besides, science is, despite what Paul Rudd says in this movie, it's not about being reckless. It's about making careful documentation about the steps you take. Not just doing random shit.
Yeah, Venkman is the reckless so-called scientist, and Egon is the actual scientist.
Yeah. Okay, Ray is also a little bit of the reckless scientist, but, you know...
No, but yeah, Getter, yeah. But Egon would be the one who's, like, on point.
Yeah, exactly.
Science.
Yeah. So
he, puts it in the floor, to hide it from the ghost? But, like, ghosts can go through walls, you think it would get at the thing anyway?
Yeah.
Unless it was, like, protected in, like, a lead box or something that ghosts can't go through, you know, make up some rules, I don't know.
In which case, why does the whole thing not... Why don't you have the whole house made out of that stuff?
Right,
well... This is really expensive.
Right, that would... it has to be imbued with energy, it's hard to come by, that sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, so Phoebe brings it to school so she can show a podcast, and then... I'm going to just call him Paul Rudd.
Sure.
Paul Rudd shows up and he's like, wow, that's a pretty good replica. Is that a pretty good replica? I'm not saying it right. But
wow, killer replica, I think was the exact wording.
And Phoebe and podcast have like a pretty good reaction where they like, that's a replica? Yes, me. I mean, is that a replica? No, maybe.
Yeah.
Replica of what?
Small side note: the acoustic license in that scene is ridiculous. There is a movie playing.
A horror movie.
Loud enough for all the other kids to hear, and yet suddenly the audience can't hear it at all, and we can only hear these three people who also cannot be heard by the folks just one table over. And you could have easily had it been like, walk over to that other room we established already existed, and have the conversation there.
Yeah. I mean, even if he's a geologist, he's still an adult who has, like, at least some experiences with the sciences. So you can just go to him after school and say, you know, we have some questions. Do you know what the fuck this is?
Or he could go to them. Like, he saw it on the desk, and he's like, what is that? And then when class ends, hey, bring that over. What was that thing again? Right? And then now they're alone in the room. Done. Yes.
And that gives a further explanation for a different scene later on, which we'll get to. But it turns out that it is, in fact, a ghost trap, and that Paul Rudd knows all about this stuff because he was alive when the Ghostbusters save Manhattan from the ghost attack. Well,
in 1984, which is somehow like not extremely public record. I mean, like there's YouTube videos of it, but it's also like, what, you haven't heard of this? You know, I understand these kids weren't born back then, but if freaking ghost marshmallow Godzilla attacks New York,
if a kaiju made of marshmallow filling attacked New York, I would think that we would keep records of that, and people would be like, oh yes, the afterlife is real. Also, it's one of those things where Ghostbusters just never, ever acknowledges the massive societal impact of the fact that we've conclusively proved that there's life after death. How religions would be turned on their heads, how everything would be super different now. But then, no, it's just, we're just doing this as like a way to make a quick buck.
Which is fine. Like, absurdity of that premise is like the basis of half the comedy. So, like, fine, that's the premise, I'll take it.
Yeah. Okay, and admittedly, I can admit that we live in an age with flat earthers, people who say we never went to the moon, anti-vaxxers, people who say that the coronavirus doesn't exist, despite the fact that it's killed 750,000 Americans. And I work in a fucking hospital. I know what I'm talking about. I set up a COVID ward. Yeah. Well, I helped set up a COVID ward. I set up the vital signs monitors for the COVID ward. Okay, so if you notice that we sound a little different right now, it's because the microphone stopped working like 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
We covered over half the movie and we're approaching the climax.
But I finally clicked back over to that window and it's like, hey, it's recording silence. Did you notice that?
Oh, God.
Alright, so back where we were, because we just checked this.
Oh, God. So Paul Rudd understands what a ghost trap is. For some reason, despite the fact that Podcast, who runs a supernatural thing, does not.
Which makes no sense, because she could have just recognized it off the bat and taken her aside and been like, hey, well, that's a real ghost trap. And then Paul Rudd can be like, whoa, killer replica, and the whole rest of the scene could still happen.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
And then they open up the ghost trap in the parking lot for some reason on top of Paul Rudd's car, which instead of, hard asphalt that you don't want damaged. Wait, no. Asphalt is okay to be damaged.
Asphalt that is acceptable to damage.
Okay,
more easily repaired, yeah.
As opposed to a car.
Yeah.
But no, they hook it up to the bus batteries, give a really stupid speech about how science is all super duper reckless, which yes, it can be, but it's really not supposed to be. It's supposed to be carefully monitored with like multiple.
Right. And hopefully someone would call him out on that, particularly Phoebe being Egon's granddaughter would be of this do science correctly mindset, I think.
Yeah. So, anyways, they unleashed Vince Clortho, who was inside of there for some reason. And as we explained before, when we thought we were recording, and yes, I'm still bitter. Yeah. My throat hurts. But means the opening scene makes no sense because we don't really know how Gozer works in this work of fiction. Because if Vince Clortho was inside the trap, then what's with the scene we get immediately after where Vince Clortho returns and then frees Zool and himself? How was he outside of that thing?
Yeah, is this supposed to be a third separate ghost that it frees the dogs, which in turn free Gozer? Is that maybe it?
Is that okay? That's the best I can think of.
Because there was a bit where Podcast is looking at a book and he's like, "Oh, I recognize this thing," and I thought it was just one of the dogs, just like artistically rendered in a different way.
Yeah, we could be mistaken on this part. There was a lot.
But the point is, the movie didn't explain it well enough for the two of us to be able to figure it out.
And we can theorize the best of them. Mm-hmm. Anyway. Sorry. Because of that, they. God, I don't know. You do stuff. I need to get a drink of water.
Okay. So they unlock the thing, and it goes into the mind. Which, according to Wikipedia, is just the bestial entity revealed to be one of otherworldly immortal Gozer's minions. Okay, fine. So Phoebe goes and finds an underground lab where that Egon had. And apparently it's Egon is leading her through this. And I thought you should have leaned into the awe of that a little more of the like, oh, what's going on here? And is that lamp really moving intentionally and this and that? But okay, she's pretty chill about that. Just like shows at the chest, which I hope is in the recorded section. I think it is. Anyway, they take out she repairs a proton pack and she goes out with podcast the next day to go test it.
Blows up, directly deatomizes the chest that she tested on. And then they meet an actual ghost, the first one visible in this film. That wasn't just straight out of a trap or invisible. This one is wholly original.
And his name is Muncher, and he eats metal. And how long has he been around, do you suppose, that no one has
Biter,
noticed this?
I think his name
No,
is.
Muncher with an M, right?
Yep.
I don't know, look it up. Muncher. See?
Okay, well, I was
like
wrong.
the math munchers.
Yep. Anyways, Muncher eats metal, and he's eating this thing he's eating pieces of this factory that used to process selenium for iron beams, which
is the second selenium reference. Is that's how the Gozer temple skyscraper was built in the very first movie. And such as
it turns out that the same guy who built that also built a temple here to Gozer for some reason.
So it's like the backup plan if the first one didn't work out, I guess.
Hey, nothing wrong with having a backup plan or two.
So then they end up, they try to trap it. It doesn't work at first. Trevor, by the way, got the Ecto one up and running and is driving around in the giant wheat fields.
And as I said last time, I would totally do this too.
Yes. I'm glad we're phrasing that much more clearly this time than the first time around.
Yes.
But you won't get into that. So, by coincidence, he just happens upon them. Okay. And they all get in the car together and they race off to go get Muncher. Even though, it's not really clear why we need to go get Muncher right now. But as you said, they're kids and they feel like it.
There's 12 years old, and quite frankly, as I said last time, if the two of us had a proton pack, a ghost trap, and a ghost right in front of us, and we're given the opportunity to bust some ghosts, we would take it. Mm. Some people might ask why, but we're 12, so we officially don't give a shit. We're going to hunt a ghost. I don't understand what's so hard about that concept.
Right. Busting makes me feel good. What can I say, right?
Yep. And I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Oh, yeah. I heard that he likes the girls. What is that line about, anyway? Would you be afraid if he liked boys? Guy who wrote that song?
What?
Isn't that a thing in there? I'm not afraid of ghosts. There's another line. I heard that he likes the girls. Remember this?
I hear he likes the ghost. Wait, I don't even know what that line is, but it's not girls.
Well, see, I couldn't
hear.
It's
ghost. It's ghost, not girls.
So the ghost likes other ghosts? Is that the line there? Ghostbusters lyrics. I'm freaking this out. By Ray Parker Jr.
Go back up. I see the area where it's at.
I mean, it's in 3 different places.
I'm afraid of no ghost.
Oh, I hear he likes the girls. It's there.
Oh, I hear it likes the girls.
It likes the girls. Whatever. It's
like the ghost. The ghost is attacking girls.
I guess. That's what makes you not afraid of it? Whatever. We are very much on a sidetrack.
It's not saying, that makes you... Oh, I hear it likes girls, so I'm not afraid of it. I know if it was a gay ghost...
That's what I was wondering.
No, it's like, it's targeting the women.
Oh, so I'm not at risk. Okay, well...
No, that's still not the answer!
Okay, whatever. I don't even get it.
It's a protect the women and children type of deal.
Uh-huh. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. There.
Okay.
So they go down and try to capture Muncher, but because they're using an unlicensed nuclear accelerator, aka a nuclear death ray, that is notoriously inaccurate in every incarnation, they basically shoot up Main Street with a nuclear death ray.
Yeah, thank God no one was killed sort of situation.
Yeah.
It's a cool action scene.
Oh, it's absolutely a cool action scene. And we discover that Egon did, in fact, make some upgrades to stuff. And I don't remember if we had the discussion about Egon not upgrading all of the old Ghostbusters gear or not. But Ecto-1 now has a chute where it can drop a somehow super powerful remote-controlled car that is also a trap, and it has a gunner's seat for Ghostbusters to pop out of the car and shoot at the side.
Which is super cool.
It absolutely is.
And I would say unnecessary, but considering the weird range problem of a plasma bolt or whatever, yeah, you can't just aim out the car by 2 inches. You might end up hitting your own car.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, okay, gunner seat, sure.
So they end up catching it, but then they get sent to jail because, well, one, Trevor was driving a vehicle when he didn't have a license. The Ecto-1's registration expired. They were speeding, and oh yeah, they shot up Main Street with a nuclear death ray.
I hear that's illegal in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Gotta wonder why that's illegal in Oklahoma. That just sounds like it's a story. It's like hearing you're not allowed to drive a tractor drunk through the center of town. There's a law against it.
The sides of town are fine.
Yeah, to quote another Paul Rudd character, what the hell happened here? Ant-Man, Avengers Endgame. Yeah. Anyways.
We forgot to mention that podcast says to Phoebe after they release that ghost, hey, you know what this means? It means your granddad was a Ghostbuster. Which, like, it could just be some other guy who has a trap for some reason.
Yeah,
you know?
or...
I mean, this would be easily clarified if he's like, hey, what's your grandfather's last name or your mother's maiden name or whatever, but...
Yeah, but they never clarified
They never did say that.
Just so they can have the reveal. Which,
you know, it's so obvious, though, so I don't know what they're trying to do there.
To be fair, I did mention last time that there was that other nerdy guy that was technically a Ghostbuster. He had a proton pack. He tried to break into the pink shell around the museum in the second Ghostbusters movie. She could have been descended from him, but no, it's pretty obvious that it was Egon that she was descended from.
Yeah.
Anyways, they find Lucky in jail because her dad is the police chief, and this information goes nowhere.
Apparently, she gets them into the police station later to get their stuff back? That was really vague, but I assume that's how they got in the building.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that's how. Although, why her dad didn't let... What happened to all the police?
Yeah, all of them. Where were they in the climax? We never get...
Did Ivan Ooze kidnap them? Is this a Power Rangers crossover?
Yeah, the town had a weird way of kind of not existing sometimes.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyways, so they make a phone call in a kind of a brilliant move. They say, we need our one phone call. By the way, as Sonic Sons has pointed out before, yeah, that's not actually a thing. You can get plenty of phone calls while you're in prison.
Yeah.
But the guy says, okay, you get your one phone call. Who are you going to call?
And we were like, I didn't see it coming. Didn't make so much sense. And she literally calls Ghostbusters. The actual number from the actual ad.
Yeah, and she winds up contacting Ray, who is, well, kind of old and bitter at this point and running a supernatural curios shop / bookstore sort of thing. And he reveals what happened with Egon. Apparently, after the events of the first and second movie, ghost busting business dried up significantly. And as a result, they all started to try to go their separate ways because they weren't making any money. And they did not like being in debt. But Egon was super into the ghost busting business, and he tried to tell them that, there's this end of the world thing that's going to happen, and you have to believe me. And for some reason, they didn't believe him. Despite the fact that they solved 2 end of the world crises that happened in New York a mere 7 years apart. So you'd think that would give Egon a little itty bitty bit of, credit.
You'd think so. But then Egon runs off with the Ecto-1 and all the gear and doesn't reach out again for 10 years. And then just calls to mention he's in some dinky little town.
And doesn't say, holy shit, guys, I found an active temple to Gozer that's, like, actively trying to end the world.
Come to think of it, does the temple need to be there for Gozer to get resurrected? Like, it's important that they have the skyscraper in the first film and the temple in this film, right?
Right.
Could you just dynamite the whole thing sometime during this 30-year gap?
I don't know.
Because, like, that would solve everything. You just chuck a bunch of dynamite in there, and then it's gone. The end.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Why the hell are you the one who came up with the plot of blow it the hell up? I'm the guy who comes up with the blow it the hell up plan, or the shoot it plan, or the any plan involving violence.
Yeah.
Really, it's any plan involving violence. Or violins, but that's for
violins on television. It's the one classic SNL I know.
Anywho, but yeah, so blah blah blah. Here's Egon's backstory and why.
So Egon went off, and as I said earlier, the one way you could have made this work is if Egon is in some sort of curse situation where either A, he cannot tell people what's up no matter how hard he tries, or B, if he does tell people, those people will now be in danger, they'll be targeted by the ghost, their souls will be sucked out, whatever.
Yeah, but they're Ghostbusters. This is literally their job.
Right, whatever. It's like I could
Oh
buy.
no! Oh no! If I tell the Ghostbusters might get attacked by a ghost. Wait a minute! This is the answer to all of my problems.
I could buy there's some new strange type of ghost that he expects would catch them off guard. Maybe it's a Freddy Krueger thing. It gets in your nightmares. Proton packs aren't good against it. That type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to imagine a proton pack in your dreams to make it work. That'd be kind of funny. Anyway, point is, you could construct a scenario in which Egon is a very good-hearted person, but he came across like an asshole due to extenuating circumstances. Instead, we're told Egon was working on this project to save the world, which is great, but not sufficient, because you can save the world and also keep in touch at the same time.
Or write some notes down. If you're the only person who knows this stuff, leave some stuff behind, so continue on my work so we don't all fucking die is a thing.
Yeah, that sounds important. And then on the personal level, call your daughter. I assume she's being raised by her mom, who may or may not be the secretary person. But, she's been missing you all her life. This is a major emotional point of the movie. It would have been easy for him to just pick up the phone, every week, or every day even.
Weird.
Phones exist.
Weird. It's almost as if there's this song relating to this movie that has as a line, who you gonna call?
Right. Who are you gonna call? Not Callie, apparently. It's just so wrong. It's just so heartbreaking. It makes no sense. Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, so it's
Alright, so she finishes the phone call with Ray after mentioning that she's the granddaughter of Egon, which is going to show up. This will be a thing later.
So anyways, then Callie shows up and she gets Trevor and Phoebe and Podcast out of jail because for some reason his parents aren't contacted.
No mention of them at all. Yeah, that's one of those things that I didn't notice was a problem consciously during the movie. But afterwards you notice it and you're like, oh yeah, that was probably an inconsistency somewhere in the background that I think, what is it, the Red Letter Media guy says, you didn't notice it, but your brain did.
So, yeah, then there's an argument over how Phoebe is arguing with all the self-assuredness of a 12-year-old that, yeah, the world's going to end and no one believes her and no one believes about ghosts, which again goes back into there was a kaiju attack in New York.
Yeah. Have they already been to the place and seen the pit and, the auto proton packs?
No.
Okay,
they have not.
Okay.
That was actually further than we got. So
okay.
We're really blitzing through this because we already covered it once. Then after saying, we're taking the proton packs and Ecto-1 and all the gear we found inside of it because, for some reason, we don't think that letting kids run around with nuclear death rays is a good idea. Phoebe tries to grab the proton pack and turns it on, which I thought was a sign, she's going to use it on a person? Jesus, we've never seen what that does to a person, but given that what it does to everything else, that's not good.
We'd clearly die,
Then they all go home. Paul Rudd says, the date was interrupted. How are we going to... Let's go meet again tomorrow. I really had a good time. How are we going to top this one? And so he goes out to Walmart. And at Walmart, he's attacked by Vince Clortho and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's tiny itty-bitty babies.
And, our first time recording this, I said, I think this scene required more people in it.
It absolutely
You're at a Walmart, someone walks by, oh God, what's going on? They drop the thing and they run like crazy, Remind the audience of how crazy this is. Because he's taking it fairly well for someone who's...
Yeah, he jumps into the front seat of his car because there's no windshield.
Through the windshield, that wasn't there, so that was funny.
He doesn't get away because Vince Clortho does the eating/possessing thing that Vince Clortho is known to do. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Callie says that what were you thinking? Worried mom stuff at first, and then Phoebe calls her out saying, "Why didn't you tell me that my grandfather was Egon Spengler?" And Callie says, Your grandfather was an asshole. Welcome to the family," which we said was a really dick move to do to the kid.
Yeah, don't make her feel like she's an asshole. I grant you, she did just shoot at Main Street, but
I was the one.
Good reason. I know.
Yeah, last time you were like, "Oh, that was completely unnecessary," and to which I kept saying, "She shot up Main Street with a death ray."
Yes. Yes, I'll admit that's a very, very poor move.
Yeah.
Especially because the monster isn't killing people; it's just eating metal. Like you could leave them alone.
Yeah, and when they get home, they're not even grounded. The kids aren't even grounded. They're like free to go out the next day, and no one says anything.
Yeah.
And also the next day, Lucky is now a member of the group and sitting with them at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Which the fact that neither of them were explicitly fired, the fact that Trevor wasn't explicitly fired for helping, because a death ray gouged a hole in the side of the restaurant.
That sounds like a fireable offense.
Yeah.
Even if you do have a union. Which he doesn't. So that was odd. Lucky just is a member of the group now. And they want to build up the new team. These are the kids, the 4 kids. They'll be like, that's great and all, but we never, I don't know anything about Lucky. She exists. And now she's here because, I don't know, we said so. We're done. Move on.
Yeah, the other 3 at least have a reason. Phoebe is like the spiritual successor to Egon, like with the glasses and the social incompetence and the tech savvy. The brother is he like fixed up Ecto-1, so he's easily the guy who knows how to drive it and stuff, and like knows how to fix it, which he didn't even know how to fix it because Egon was the one who finished the job.
I think they were trying to do a bit of him wanting to drive this car around to impress Lucky. It was like very subtly mentioned about having a car. Remember this?
Okay, admittedly.
But like this, the point is that it's still very like subtle and shallow. We didn't build on it very much.
Right. And Podcast does all sorts of supernatural stuff. So they all have a reason to be there. Lucky, not so much. Even oh God, who's the name of the final Ghostbuster? Because I can never remember his name.
Let me go find out. Which one do we have? Ray, obviously, Venkman, Egon, and
the only one of them who isn't one of those. Winston.
Winston,
yeah. Winston, at least he came on. He's like, I'll believe anything you pay me to believe.
Right.
And he's like, oh, okay.
He had attitude that was memorable.
And he had great lines. Yeah. Like, that's a big Twinkie.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Twinkie in the dash, in the thing, okay?
Yeah.
But Lucky doesn't really do as much here. In fact, she vanishes for portions of the film.
The one thing we got out of her was the sense that her town is a dump and she wants to up and leave someday. And you could have built on that. Like, I want to do something impressive. This looks impressive. Cool. I'm going to show myself that I'm an impressive person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But she didn't say any of that. It was just like, plot, plot, plot,
Plot, plot, plot, plot, plot, plot, plot. So they use a map that Paul Rudd got from Callie earlier in the film, and they find there's concentric circles around the mountain. The mountain that they already saw demons flying out of. The mountain that they already saw, like, the ancient runes to Gozer. The mountain that they saw ghosts flying towards. But no, you needed this map to tell you that something's hinky about the mountain.
Yeah, it was pointless.
Yeah, no. If this, they implied that this map was like thousands of years old. I thought they were building on the fact that, I thought they were going to do a reveal that it turns out that all of Summervale was like secretly this gigantic runic array to amplify the power of ghosts and supernatural activity in this region, built in such a way that it was like kind of like how in Full Metal Alchemist, the Führer was secretly turning the entire nation into a transmutation circle to create a Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah. That was
Spoiler.
Cool. Yeah. But okay.
But so I thought that's where this was going, but no, that turned out to be not much of anything.
So they go back to that same mountain again.
And they go down into the pit where they saw the ghosts coming out of, and there's a temple down here, and there's writing on the walls, and it lists a bunch of really important dates in history, like
1945.
What didn't happen in 1945? Congratulations, the one lucky line I remember. Yeah. 1908, the Tunguska Blast.
So apparently all these have something to do with Gozer. But did Gozer, like, invent the atom bomb? Like, I don't actually...
Oh, yeah, you know, Gozer was right. In fact, Gozer magnanimously turned down. Otherwise...
would have gotten the Nobel Prize or something.
Yeah, Oppenheimer was the one she gave the credit to.
Okay. Sure. What's wrong with that?
Okay, but and then it listed, like, the Ghostbusters attack in 1984. Well, the Ghostbusters movie Ghost Attack thing, 1984. And now it's 2021, the last year on the list. Woo!
So that is when Gozer can get resurrected, apparently.
Oh, and the founder of the town, the same guy who built the skyscraper in the first movie, is in a sarcophagus right over here.
Which ends up being a completely pointless detail.
Yeah. Weird.
So he put himself in this glass coffin because he's dead, but like somehow not really dead.
I would have saved him as the bad guy for a sequel.
Yeah, that might have been a way to do it.
Yeah, and there's a pit full of like constantly bubbling up ghost juice. Is the best way I can describe it. That goes up and up and up until this setup that Egon made fires four proton packs directly down into the ghost juice and forces it back down, and that's what's causing the earthquakes.
And he couldn't be bothered to take a picture of this and send it to anybody to go for backup.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
No, absolutely not. And so this makes them realize, oh, Egon had a plan. And Phoebe goes, oh, I know what his plan is. Let's go back to the house. Oh, and by the way, in this time, Callie had a revelation because the ghost of Egon brought her down to his secret lab and showed her a wall full of pictures, which meant that he stalked her for most of her life, even though he wasn't there for her. So
again, would have made sense with the whole curse idea. I couldn't have contacted you, but I did everything I could to one way understand your life, you know?
Yeah. And as soon as she sees that, she's like, oh, I kind of accept that Egon was my dad now, but not really, because immediately I'm consumed/possessed by Zool.
Yeah, which, by the way, you think Egon's ghost would tell her about any of that.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, there's a ghost right behind you. Type it out on the keyboard. Write it out with a pen. You can move physical objects, Egon.
Okay, so the kids go back to the house, and they see the mom pulling classic, there is no mom, only Zool sort of details.
Which is a little odd with the word mom.
Yeah,
it is. Right?
Yeah.
Because then it's like the concept of mom has been erased. Well, obviously, mean this one person, but this one person has a name individual to her. Anyway.
I guess that's what they were calling her. So,
yeah.
Anyways, then she runs out into the wilderness on all fours, and no one tries to restrain her or anything, but given that she tried to bite them, I can kind of understand why. Right.
Now, I want to say in the original Ghostbusters, when you didn't know the deal about Gozer, it was more interesting to be like, oh, what are these dogs? What are they doing with these people? What's the Keymaster? What's all this? And now it's like, oh, we know the score, so, of course, the two people have to get possessed and meet up, and, just less interesting,
So, they go down into the basement, and they find there's a model of the house, and it turns out that the whole property is secretly a massive ghost trap that Egon set up with these massive capacitors that are the real corn silo things that I joked about at the beginning of the review, which is longer ago for us than for you, which, yes, I'm still fucking bitter. Yeah, so it turns out that these power a lot of ghost traps, which you'd think that Egon would build just one super huge ghost trap or something.
I don't know. It all adds up somehow.
Yeah. So they need to activate it, even though it clearly didn't work the first time, because otherwise their dad wouldn't have died. Well, Grandpa.
Yeah.
So they immediately start getting out Ghostbusters gear. We get some ship tease between Lucky and Trevor when he sees her changing, and she's like, "What?" Like,
that was perfunctory. Is that the word for it?
I don't know.
That was just a random little bit there thrown in without direct connection to the rest of what was going on.
Right. And then they get ready. They go to the police station headquarters, and in the meantime, the Vince Clortho in the body of Paul Rudd and Zool in the body of Callie decide to have sex. Also, for some reason, Zool has the power to make Callie's clothes change into what Ripley from the first movie was wearing. Why? Why didn't Vince Clortho do that? I don't know. But they get together, and okay, admittedly, this is kind of funny that, like, Vince Clortho starts complimenting Zool's eyes. You have lovely eyes. And then Zool just starts growling and letting a dog speak. He's like, oh, okay. And then they have sex. But we don't see it. But it's heavily implied. Yeah. And then ghosts start getting let out. But unlike the cool scene where ghosts were everywhere in New York, it's...
Yeah, I think there are ghosts around somewhere, but you need shots of people reacting to this.
Yeah.
You need, like, the cops, who we know exist, in theory, being busy with these ghosts, and that's why perhaps they're not in the station right now, as they all ran onto the street to go deal with this emergency.
Meanwhile, the new Ghostbusters crew breaks into the brand new, totally empty police station, and Lucky, I guess, gets the keys and opens up makes it so that the Ecto 1 can be released now from impound. But oh no, there's like a jail inside of the jail that they put the gear in.
The trap, yeah.
So, okay, podcast shows some pretty clever thinking here. Maybe in the short term, but not in the long term. But he opens the trap that's still inside, and that has the metal-eating ghost inside, and that eats through the locks.
Which is cool. I just felt they really should have gone to cower in a corner, after that, so he doesn't go shoot you with bullets like he's attempted before.
Yeah.
Think that through, please. But, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but now they have the proton pack, and
so cool.
Oh yeah, in the meantime, I forgot to mention Vince Clortho as Paul Rudd destroyed the array of proton packs that Egon set up, so now the ghost tide is everywhere.
Did Paul Rudd ever... I know about those things? I guess the dog knows about those things. Okay, fine.
Yeah, the dog knows about them, the one that's controlling his actions.
Right.
So at this point, the podcast, Phoebe, and Trevor roar out of the police station with the triumphant blaring of Ecto 1's sirens. And meanwhile, Lucky grabs a cop car and does not go with them and vanishes from the movie for the next half hour.
Yeah.
I literally do not know why she left. The best explanation I thought was, she left and went and got the rest of the Ghostbusters.
But she did not.
No. The next time we see her, she just shows up with the ghost gun.
Feels like there's a deleted scene in there.
Yeah, but I don't know what she did in this situation.
Yeah, that's weird. She's supposed to be part of the squad. Get her in here.
Yeah, they didn't sideline Winston.
Yeah.
So, moving along, they go to the secret temple, which has now, the secret carvings, which is now a super duper ultra temple for Gozer, who looks the same as they did back in the first film.
Which makes sense, they're immortal.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the setting is not half as cool, because it used to be on top of a skyscraper, and you had the vistas everywhere, and it looked all,
Oh, and not
epic.
just that, there was a doorway that that opened up, and then there was a whole dimension inside
That's
of there,
right.
and that was cool. And this looks like they borrowed the quarry from the Doctor Who episodes,
right? Like they're all kind of inside, underground. It doesn't have that sense of it's going to go out to grab the rest of the world type of thing.
Yeah, and so they decide to distract. They use Phoebe as a distraction because her thing this whole movie has been telling really, really bad jokes, which are still pretty funny, but some of them are two whales are in a bar. One says, the other says to him, go home, you're drunk.
Yeah.
Okay, that's objectively hilarious, but, you know. But, like, she's doing these comedy stylings to Gozer, a god of another dimension.
Right. I'll take that as the refuge and audacity kind of a so weird it just might work type of plan.
Yeah, but, like, okay, Gozer comes across as really unimpressive here. I'm going to say it. Like, a lot of moments where the Gozer could just go, I can kill you immediately, but I won't for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, Gozer's always had this sort of weird detached thing going on, which makes sense for some mysterious god asking freaking Dan Aykroyd, are you gods? Because Gozer apparently doesn't know for sure. Choose the form of the destroyer is such a weird thing to set up for people so they can get killed by the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Like, okay, that's the way your religion works or something. I don't know. That's how the magic works.
But to be fair, it allowed for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, so I will allow it.
Yeah.
But Gozer goes, are you ready to sacrifice yourself?
Are you prepared to die?
No,
like,
I'm 12.
Are you? And then they flick the trap that they'd snuck under one of the dogs.
Turns out that both of the they'd snuck two traps under,
one
trap
dog,
under
trap.
the dog,
Yeah.
and that it turns out reveals that Vince Clortho, Zool and Vince Clortho are anchors that allow Gozer to be in this reality. Without them, Gozer starts turning translucent and wisp-like.
It has less power, I take it, yeah.
Yeah.
So they grab Zool, which, by the way, frees Callie, and
they stuff Callie and the ghost trap. No, wait, no, the ghost trap is... For some reason, they don't stuff the ghost trap in there. They just have it ride out because it's the motorized ghost trap.
Yeah. And then eventually they get it back into the car with that little panel.
Yeah, and Callie tries to give this half-hearted explanation, like, oh, your dad was a Ghostbuster. It turns out he did love us. He had this plan and stuff.
Like, we already know, Mom. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, but, you know, the emotional scene was undercut. Then they drive back to the farm to try the same thing that Egon did at the beginning of the film, and that didn't work, so...
Yeah, there ought to be, like, some key element that they think they're doing differently than he did. That this time it'll work.
Which technically they did. They shot the...
Right, but they hadn't planned on that in advance or discussed it.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd fixed it or something, but... Yeah, whatever.
Especially, Phoebe's got electrical talents. You could have sort of seen her messing with the wires previously. Oh, this thing needs to be plugged in here, you know.
So, next on the list, they get into a recreation of the opening scene where Phoebe is holding the trap like bait, and then something comes out of the corn patch, and except it looks like if Emperor Palpatine got an X-ray and was made of Force lightning.
Okay.
And they try to set the trap, and it fails, just like at the beginning of the movie. So, like we said, they did the same thing, and it still didn't work. And then Lucky comes out of the house with a proton pack and zaps Gozer, but good. Except it more annoys her.
Yeah. It was unclear in this scene exactly how much zapping you needed to do to kill Gozer properly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, is Lucky enough? And then Phoebe shoots, and then, like, Trevor has got a problem because the mini things are sabotaging his pack.
The mini Stay Puft Marshmallow Men are sabotaging all of the tech, which I don't know how much is just them being little gremlins and how much is just...
Like, they're helping Gozer?
Yeah. But then Gozer powers through it when the traps fail, and she rips open the trap. And I didn't get this until much later in the film, but it turns out that Zool pops out, avoids Callie, and possesses Lucky.
Yeah, there's a very quick shot.
But it should, it speaks volumes that I didn't realize Lucky was fucking possessed for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, again, they shuttle her to the side of the action, as it were.
Yeah, but now that Zool is back in the real world, Gozer starts to regain their physical form and starts getting ready to do Force Lightning on them. Except then, the Ghostbusters show up!
Yay!
The surviving ones!
Yay!
And this scene kind of peters out. It just feels like there's a lot of standing and talking.
Yeah, again, with the how much more can he take trope. Like, you don't know is Gozer struggling? Is Gozer like just got plenty more where that came from?
Yeah, but there's still a lot of them just talking.
That's what I'm saying. Like that trope leads to them talking. I'm not defending it. I'm saying like this is the structure that gave us the problem. And it, we just certainly needed our nostalgia and all this.
The Gozer asks them, "Are you a god?" And for once, Ray answers yes.
Yes, after like pausing for a bit. And then Egon's ghost shows up, and like
no, there's like a couple scenes in between there. Like the Ghostbusters try the crossing the streams, but that didn't work. That doesn't work because honestly, it didn't work.
Cross the streams, they said.
Yeah. Also, they didn't cross the streams on Gozer. They used it on the doorway.
That's right. I would have sort of thought somebody would have mentioned, by the way, crossing streams is extremely dangerous, but there's a freaking auto system that's crossing streams like every day.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, that was weird though. It should have been like, rig up a different system so you don't run the risk of blowing up the whole place, which actually might solve the problem. But that has been already ignored. So okay.
Then Phoebe grabs a photon gun, a particle. What are these things called again?
Proton packs.
Proton pack, and gets into a beam of war with Gozer, who for some reason this is a challenge when earlier she was holding off 3 cross streams at once.
Yeah, that was very vague. And then Egon shows up in ghost form to like hold her hand as she does this.
Which, okay, is kind of cool if you're a Dragon Ball fan and remember the father-son Kamehameha, but it doesn't, I don't know what it was. I mean, it was cool.
The father-son Kamehameha naturally doubles the power of the Kamehameha. In this case, Egon is emotionally important, but not contributing anything from a tactical sense. And it would have been really easy to establish that Egon feeds his energy into the pack to supercharge it and like change his colors and everything. And then because of that, he's like sacrificed his afterlife, as it were. He's got 3 more minutes to hug everybody, and he fades to the permanent afterlife.
Yeah, okay, that would have been better. But because of that, because of Phoebe's distraction, it allows the rest of the Ghostbusters to get back on their feet, and they're also shooting at Gozer, and it's starting to get through.
And then Trevor shoots the freaking cables that need to be shot.
And that activates like 50 different traps, and it sucks in all the ghosts, except for Egon for some reason. But like Gozer gets split up into like 30 different traps.
It did kind of give the final blow to Trevor for some reason. Like, was any of this necessary? If the first person with the proton pack had aimed at those places and hit the pedal, I think that would have worked. So, like, none of you were necessary. Trevor is the actual hero of the scene.
Well, Trevor in podcast,
yeah. It's like, this doesn't add up quite the way it should for dramatic purposes.
Yeah, I mean, it's still great.
Yeah, it was fun seeing them all again.
But we're super nitpicky about this shit. By the way, is the pizza still in the oven?
It's done now. Whenever you want to hit stop.
Oh, no. No, I was just worried about it turning into a briquette.
No, I turned it off.
Okay, sorry for that, but... so then, like, there's an emotional scene where the Ghostbusters are like, "We're sorry you're gone. We miss you so much, man." And then, like, he says goodbye to Trevor, and he says goodbye to Phoebe, and then he hugs Callie, all without saying a word, because you couldn't get a fucking voice actor that sounds like him.
I guess not.
And then he turns into sparkle dust, and he fades away, and then there's for Harold.
Yeah. Which was sweet.
For Harold Ramis. It was sweet, yeah. Although then there's like a whole other set of scenes after this. Like, first it cuts over to... First it does the thing that we can unambiguously agree was an absolutely solid decision. It shows the Ghostbusters Ecto-1 driving over a bridge in New York. And then starts playing the Ghostbusters theme.
Yay! Finally got it.
Which, yes... The music design in this movie, by the way, is incredible. It draws tons of cues from the original series. It very much feels like a Ghostbusters audibly speaking.
Yeah.
Also, Lucky got removed from the dog, and so did Paul Rudd, and Callie and Paul Rudd agreed to go on more dates or something.
So they did top that first date, but topping the second one is going to be...
No, topping the third one is going to be nuts. Okay, for our third date, we're fighting Unicron!
Right.
Because this is a Transformers crossover, and by the way, that is an actual thing.
What, a Transformers and Ghostbusters crossover?
That is an actual comic.
Wow.
Linkara reviewed it.
Wow. That's cool.
Oh, God. It's actually kind of fun. But, anywho, so Lucky does still nothing more of the plot, but okay, we're not done with the plot yet. Then we go to New York, and it's revealed that Sigourney Weaver, God, that was who I was kept calling Ripley, and Bill Murray / Bankman are doing the electrical test just like at the beginning of the first movie. And it turns out that he marked the cards, which is how he keeps getting such good results on them, and he would only zap the men.
Yeah, so it's just a random little...
But I choose to believe that the two are married in this continuity.
Yeah, presumably.
Yeah. Then, at the final scene of the movie, we see that the firehouse is still intact. I mean, it's dusty and hasn't been used in years, but Winston brought Ecto-1 back, and he's talking to the secretary lady, and he's talking about how amazing being a Ghostbuster was and how it really inspired him to be better and found this awesome company.
Whichever the company is, it wasn't clear.
Yeah, and he said that no matter what happens, I will always be a Ghostbuster, which is a great line to end on. Except it doesn't quite end there because it shows the basement of the Ghostbusters building, and the containment system is starting to fail.
So sequel bait, yeah.
And that was Ghostbusters, and honestly, I really, really, really liked it. Even though there's so much of it that doesn't make sense. There's so many plot holes. There's so much that I shouldn't like about it, but god damn it, Bustin' makes me feel good!
Yeah.
Oh. And maybe I am just a little bitter because we had to re-record like the last 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. But okay. Our second take was probably more efficient anyway.
Yeah.
Slightly less rambly reviewers. Here's a shout out to all our viewer. We got like a few views now.
Oh, by the way, it's revealed that Ray is the only person who's subscribed to podcast, which is kind of neat. As I said in the deleted version, God, who's Ray's actor? Dan Aykroyd. A lot of the supernatural stuff in Ghostbusters is based on real supernatural science because Dan Aykroyd and his father were actual supernatural experts and called upon that knowledge. So, in a way, it's sweet in a very meta sense that that podcast is getting like kind of support and shout out from an actual supernatural expert, even if it's in the film.
Even though that also means somehow the kid is that much up to par, but also hasn't heard of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So, okay. Try that on for size. I don't know.
Ultimately, I really, really, really liked the movie. I wish Lucky had gotten anything. I wish that...
I wish there's been a lot more room for the team to bond and feel like a team by the end. Mm-hmm. Especially if Phoebe's problem is that she doesn't know how to fit in and make friends. Having friends should be a big deal then, and I guess improving the relationship with her brother while she's at it. And you'd play that to the climax. You'd play like the thing that, makes us win is that we trust each other now. We're working as a team. Maybe, throw a fake out where it looks like, you've been abandoned. Or, no, they haven't abandoned me. They were just doing this other plan. We're all part of this. Mm-hmm. That would have been much more satisfying.
And when he said this to me in the car, I said, your Brony fan status is showing.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that this Ghostbuster, who's the granddaughter of Egon, her name is Twilight Sparkle, right, goes to a rural town to learn the power of friendship to fight an evil god. Oh my god, it is the pilot episodes!
Yeah.
Although, I do think that it would have been hilarious to see Celestia come down and say to Twilight Sparkle, "Oh, Twilight, I knew you could purify my sister with the power of French. Where is my sister? Why is there a ghost trap?"
Bustin' makes me feel good. Awkward shrug.
Look, Princess Celestia, I ain't afraid. I saw her. She turned into into an insubstantial phantasm that could flow through walls and affect the real world. She was a spirit, and I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Yeah. Neither are we, thanks to Ghostbusters.
Hell yeah.
Alright,
You know what? We might have to see the Ghostbusters 2016, because now I can't stand the thought that I have missed some Ghostbusters media.
I'm told it's bad, but yes, we can still see it.
Yeah, so was the Star Wars Holiday Special, and you know what?
We have never seen that.
I have.
You have?
Yes.
Oh my god, it's so boring.
It's
the
bad.
way you see
it is really
you have
bad.
to approach it with like radiation gear, which is to say you watch Nostalgia Critic's review of it.
No, I watched the actual thing, and it was bad. It was so bad. I regret it.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what? I came out stronger, and my brain has never been finer, both physically and
mentally.
Mentally.
I guess we're done here, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Ghostbusters.
Yay for Ghostbusters. We ain't afraid of no ghosts. Signing off.